Hello, I am going to do a tutorial on how to create a cutscene. First and foremost, I have a narration that I'm going to be using for this cutscene. I recorded it in Audacity, and now I'm going to export it as an MP3, and I'm going to call it narration. And I'm going to put it on my desktop in cutscene, my cutscene folder. Save. Okay, great. I also have some images that I'd like to use for this, and it comes up as this artwork. I'd like to take this artwork and then chop it up in a way that I can use for my cutscene. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Photoshop, and I'm going to pull that file in. I just put it in my cutscene window. And the really nice thing is that we're going to use a program called After Effects. And I can chop these up onto different layers in Photoshop and bring those layers into After Effects and animate them accordingly. So what I'm going to do here is unlock my background. And I'm going to just copy. Maybe I want each one of these like this. I'm going to copy each one of these and edit, copy, edit, cut, edit, paste. So same thing, I'll go back to this original layer. Edit, copy, cut, paste. And then back to my original layer. Copy, cut, paste. And my original layer. Copy, cut, paste. And then back to my original layer. Copy, cut, paste. Okay, great. Okay, these are all in different layers, and I'm not going to be lazy. I'm going to name them. Excuse me, not what I wanted. Zeus, Zeus, get in there. Zeus. And then this is Athena. And then this is Aphrodite. Possibly misspelled it. No, I got it. Pandora. And Hermes. Okay, great. And I'll get rid of that bottom layer. And I'm going to save this as a Photoshop file. Gods in my folder. And okay, great. That's fine. Actually, cancel. I wasn't paying attention. I need to save as a PSD file. Gods. Okay, great. And now I'm going to open up After Effects, which is probably going to take a long time, and I should have done it before. But once I get After Effects open, I'm going to import my narration and my visuals. The narration's useful because it will help me set this first stage. After Effects works differently from Premiere. In Premiere, you kind of take your files and pile them one after another into this long expanded timeline. So that is the Premiere timeline. After Effects is really different because After Effects has you decide how long your file should be before you put any content in there. I'm going to create a new project, and I'm going to import those files that I have, which is my Photoshop file and my sound file. Cutscene. I'm going to do my narration first. Great. And then I'm going to go File, Import, and I'm going to take my Photoshop file. I just need to make sure that I pull in this composition, retain layer sizes. If I do footage, it's going to collapse that Photoshop file, and I want all the layers. So I'm going to hit Import, and it says, do I want to keep the editable layer styles? I don't really have any, but that's fine. I'll hit OK. Okay. So what's interesting is I have my sound file. I have this folder with all the layers from Photoshop. And I have this thing called a composition. I'm going to double click on this composition, and you can see this composition has all those images already. I'm actually going to do something different. I'm going to create my own composition because I would like to be able to control who appears at what time. So to do that, I'm going to go Composition, New Composition, and I'm going to call it Main Composition. It's 1920 by 1080, which is perfect. In this composition, I want to see how long this composition should be. And I noticed that my narration is 10 seconds long. So it might make sense for me to make it, my composition that I just created, my new composition called Main Composition, around the same length as the narration. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on my main composition. Here I am. And I'm going to go to Composition, Composition Settings. And you know what? This is 30 seconds long. Let's make it about 20 seconds long. Okay, great. I'm going to pull my narration in here and have my narration start later on. Okay, great. That's just a starting point. God at Prometheus and decides to take vengeance on. Okay. I can hear this. Humans. He orders Hephaestus to create in the background, which is useful because I would like to set up my cutscene. One of the things I'd like to do is make a title, and I'm just going to take text and I'll say, the story begins. And that makes a file a text layer. But I don't want this text layer to be on there the whole time. So I can click and drag with these double-headed arrows and make it so that the story begins, and I hit play. Zeus is mad at Prometheus and decides. All right, I'm going to scooch this over a teeny bit, and it starts off with Zeus mad at Prometheus. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull Zeus onto my timeline. Sure. And I want Zeus to appear when it says, Zeus is mad at Prometheus and decides. Okay. So all I need to do is go back to the beginning, get that double-headed arrow, and have Zeus fade in. And then I'm going to make Zeus last on my timeline just this long. Zeus is mad and decides to take vengeance on. Okay, great. Now this is dumb, right? It's just Zeus appearing. It would be way better if I could animate Zeus in some way. One of the coolest things about After Effects is that every time I put a layer on my composition, that layer gets a whole bunch of special powers. And the special powers come in this little twirl down arrow here. What it can do is I'm on my Zeus layer, I can set this stopwatch here, and I can decide that I want my opacity to be 0. Then I can go out in my timeline for where it says Zeus, and I can bring the opacity up to 100. So all of a sudden, I've got this complexity.
Zeus is mad at Prometheus and decides to take vengeance on humans.
Okay, great. So Zeus is here, and I'm fading Zeus up. Cool, that already looks cool. But the next thing is
Orders Hephaestus to create.
All right, maybe a little bit longer. And Hephaestus needs to come in next. Okay, no problem.
You can just do like Hermes or something.
I'll do Hermes, yeah. What's really cool and very cutscene-y is that right about here, I could just fade Zeus out, but After Effects makes everything so easy. I'm gonna hit the stopwatch, and I am going to scooch my little playback controller over. Am I going to do that? No. Yeah, no, that's great. Over to the far side here. And I'm going to move the position, the x-axis of Zeus over so that he fades out. Oh, no, wrong. And goes off to the side. Get away. See you, Zeus. All right, let's see.
Zeus is mad at Prometheus and decides to take vengeance on humans. He orders Hephaestus.
So at this point, I would like Hermes or Hephaestus, whose name I can't say, to appear. And I could have this happen. So again, I'm going to scooch on over here. I could have a fade in happen. And I think I will do a fade in. And I'm going to close Zeus's magic triangle, and I'm going to open Hermes. And what I'd like to have happen is I would like Hermes to start 0 opacity and come in here with 100% opacity. But wait, there's more. I'm also going to go back to the beginning of Hermes, and I'm going to put scale because I'd like Hermes to scale in small and then get large as they fade in. Let's crank this up.
Zeus is mad at Prometheus and decides to take vengeance on humans. He orders Hephaestus to create Pandora.
And then maybe I'll pull in Pandora now and have Pandora start right. When do I say Pandora?
To create Pandora.
Okay. I like what's happening with Hermes, so let's transform Pandora, and we'll have Pandora start a little bit early, and we're gonna, because this is where we want her to end up, so we'll do position and rotation at 100% here. Oh, and then we have Pandora, and did I want, actually, I'm sorry, I didn't want position with Pandora. I want rotation and opacity to be at 100% for Pandora. And then opacity to be 0 at the start. But I also want Pandora to like rotate in. So let's see how that looks.
Or use this to create Pandora.
Okay, cool.
Efface this to create.
Do you see that fancy rotate in?
Efface this to create Pandora.
Cool. Now, one last thing, because this is the great, I mean, like this could be an amazing cutscene. One last thing is I can download free B-roll or back, sorry. And I could go to archive or whatever, but I want to have clouds. So I'm gonna have a cloud, great. I'm gonna have this cloud background. I'm gonna free download it. And I'm gonna put it in cutscene. And I'm gonna import that. Clouds. And I'm gonna throw these clouds in the background of my scene. And they can fade in. Ooh, and that makes it super cool. Although I don't like, actually these clouds are kind of overkill, but the cloud layer also has a transform. So maybe I'll reduce the opacity of the clouds. Ooh, cool. Shabadoo. So cool, right? You can do so much. Cool animation. And if I wanted to, I can just go File, Export, and then add it to a render queue and then export it from the render queue, which we'll do right now. Render queue, output to, I'll click on that actual link, and then I'll do desktop, cutscene, main, QuickTime, save, render. I may have to convert this in Premiere from my movie file to an MP4, but that's fine.